What's going on, everybody? My name is Andrew, and today I want to talk to you about what we as real estate investors look for in our investment properties, whether we're looking to flip or BRRRR, and how we go about the planning process and the decision on what it is we're going to do. So this week we are actually closing on 3 properties that we're going to be either flipping or BRRRRing, because we do kind of make that decision as we move along. If you find a property, you're going to need to pay attention to where it is and what demographic you're going to be selling to. That's the first thing you're going to be looking at as an investor. And then you're going to look at what does that person, or what does that target population want to buy. This property has a few unique features, such as big open windows, good living space, high ceilings, but what is it that we want to change here? We're buying the worst property in the best area. I want to change the windows because although they're very nice, very big windows, they let in a lot of natural light, they are old. Trims always make a place look new, and they're easy and cost effective to upgrade. So you do want to come in and tell a contractor simple things. You don't have to go over everything. I want to change windows, new trims, new doors, and I want new receptacles. That is the bulk of the renovation. Paint the place. It's gonna look like $1 million and you don't have to think about it too much. Bedrooms are not something that you have a lot of control over unless you want to be doing massive changes to layout. Layout is the most expensive thing to change, and you will likely need permits if you're doing big changes. So we have these washrooms. They might not be spaced out in the most efficient way, but if you're telling your contractor dark tile floor, light tile wall, you can maybe go to Home Depot, pick out a few tiles that you want, and I want these vanities. How much more do you have to decide? The only thing you really have to have a conversation with them about is, do I want the toilet in this place? And if I want to move it, how much is it going to cost? But for the most part, try to leave everything where it is. It just makes things so much easier. We can do simple adjustments here. Leave the stove where it is, leave the sink here, but maybe straighten it out. Do a corner section here. You don't want to create pinch points, so we're just going to leave this depth of cabinet here to create a pantry. You don't have to do anything too complicated. Pot lights in here. These are simple things. You don't need to tell your contractor anything more than this. They should be able to tell you if these things are possible to do, and try not to mess with the layout too much. Now, as we come into the basement, this is where you have a little more decision making to do. One of the things you can change, and one of the things we always look for, is ample basement ceiling height. This is something that you can definitely work with, especially when it offers nice big windows. But if you have these features, it essentially gives you a very blank canvas that you can work with and adjust, because the plumbing is already here, the heating is already here, the electrical panel is already here. It means that you can run things however it is that you want in order to build your desired product. When we're looking at all these panel walls, we just want to make things feel newer. Put 2x4s in front of it and then insulate them just to make sure that whoever's buying is not going to get totally butchered on the heating bills. The main things that are going to need discussion is layout. We're in the basement and you don't have a kitchen. Try to position the kitchen someplace close to where there is plumbing. So that is generally what we look for these types of properties. And the only other thing that it did have, which I think is a huge bonus, is it has that double car park driveway, which allows for future duplex potential. We have another property we bought in the downtown area of Hamilton that offers different advantages, so we're going to look at that next. Now, in contrast with the other property that we looked at, we're going to be looking at a single family home. Let's start off by looking at things like the area. We're talking about the North End area of Hamilton, which, if you're familiar with it, has a lot of development opportunities coming up. The pier is being developed. The bayfront is very desirable to begin with. And on top of that, for anybody wanting to move into an area that offers a lot of walking downtown for any kind of things that you might want to enjoy there, like James Street is just around the corner. As a real estate investor, again, you don't have to know how to do everything. You don't have to know all the nitty-gritty details about how to renovate a property. You just have to have an approximate idea of what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do. For example, having an understanding that if you're going to be taking off trims and upgrading them, there's a strong possibility that the plaster will be coming off the drywall, because it's very hard to take these things off on these old lath walls. These properties often come with all these older features. Some people love it or hate it, but you have these pocket doors that you can decide to work with or just remove them entirely. If you want to preserve the drywall and not damage the whole thing and have to just re-drywall everything, you can go with wider trims to make sure to cover the spot, and it leaves you without having to do that extra plaster work. Now, as we come over here into the kitchen area, again, we're not actually going to do anything too complicated. When we're looking at this, we might be thinking, let's open up the whole space, give it a nice depth of field, and we're going to make this place feel very luxurious. But now we're talking about complex renovations. And again, if we're just flipping properties, we want to try to keep things easy and simple. Are we targeting this property to be sold to somebody who's just looking to get into a good area? And this isn't luxury class or like top of the line properties. We're building something that is good for somebody entering the real estate market, and that's our target audience here. So we're going to leave the kitchen just the same, and we're going to maybe upgrade things that need to be upgraded. Like over here, we found out that there were problems with the plumbing. There's holes in the actual drain stack, and that is something that we had to change and upgrade. Nothing much we can do about that. As we come into the upstairs area, we're going to see a very traditional design. Washroom over here, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom. The electrical's in pretty good condition. We're gonna paint the place, new baseboards, new flooring, new windows everywhere that we can, and we're gonna try not to break the bank by doing our renovations here. What happens if we look into an area that is not so good? Would you invest in that? Let's check out the next place. Now, I wanna walk you through this property, which is the third property that we're closing on this weekend. It is actually the cheapest of them all, and I wanna show you why. Having an outdated kitchen or outdated backsplash is something that is relatively simple to improve. It isn't in the best area, however, there is a lot of room for it to grow. Now, some people will say, oh, you know, everybody likes to describe these junk properties and junk areas as being in an up and coming neighborhood. You wanna buy in areas before they're actually good, because by the time they become good, they are expensive investments. This is a semi-detached legal duplex, and we got this for $550,000. We could technically rent this out as is if we wanted to for pretty cheap, but because we wanna go for the best possible tenant we can, we want to make sure that we renovate this in such a way that we can attract that tenant. This washroom is actually probably gonna look pretty good on camera, but if we look at this in a little more detail, you're gonna see that the floors are actually a laminate floor instead of a vinyl, and you shouldn't be having something like this in a washroom. You can already see that the edges are starting to fray. This is definitely something we would want to improve. As we're coming onto the second floor of the property, we're looking at the second floor unit, and we can make a few decisions here. As we look at the kitchen, this is definitely something I would change. You just have to come into a place like this and say, I want a new kitchen. The floor here is okay. The floor there is not okay. I want to change that flooring to vinyl floor. This door has a ding in it, so we're going to replace the door. In properties like this, one of the things that we are doing is we are trying to create affordability, and that is the focus here. Just for perspective, the property in the mountains, $875,000, and we're probably going to need to spend about $150,000 on it. The property in the Bayfront is $660,000, and we're probably going to need to spend maybe about $75,000 to $80,000 renovating it. And then this property, it was purchased for $550,000, and we're probably going to spend like maybe $35,000, $40,000 spiffing it up. And then the decision after that is either sell them or burn them. And that's something that you as an investor can decide for yourself. If you want help figuring out how to pick up your next investment property, feel free to reach out to us. We're going to leave some information about us in the description below and on the screen somewhere here. In the meantime, if you found this video helpful or informative, make sure to like, subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.